Well,
Hello!
hello there, you good people, friends, lovers. Thank you for joining us. This is 5 Minutes with Robert and Amy Nasir, and you know who you are. We're glad you're here. Today is Sunday, November 17th. November 17th, 2024, the 372nd day. The numbers are getting too big. 307nd. I used to be able to speak English. 372nd day of 2024. I hope this has been your best year yet, but if it hasn't, we're going into the best time of the year. The holiday season is the holiday season. Thanksgiving in the U.S. is right around the corner. Christmas around the world is right after that. After today, you've got 44 gestures here, I guess, on the podcast. You can't see that. 44 days left to make this your best year yet. That also means 44 days until New Year's Eve. The party is right around the corner. Christmas in 38 days, Thanksgiving in 11. Halloween is in just 348 days.
Yes!
For those of you who are keeping track of that. And on this date, November 17th, I'm going to jump right in just a few to grease the skids of today's topic. Well, first of all, on this date in 1869, the Suez Canal opened. Link to an article about that in the show notes, as always, in the YouTube description, the Facebook Live description. Suez Canal, artificial sea level waterway in Egypt, connecting the Mediterranean Sea to the Red Sea through the Isthmus, I-S-T-H. I say it in my head, it sounds real smooth.
Merry Isthmus.
Isthmus of Suez and dividing Africa and Asia. This is 1869. And who builds the Suez Canal? Who takes charge of building the Suez Canal?
I did.
Amy did. Well, the French did. The French diplomat Ferdinand de Lesseps formed the Compagnie de Suez, the Suez Company,
Très bien.
for the purpose of building a canal. You can take big ships through a canal. Now, it's interesting, if you read the history in the link that I provided, there were some kinds of canals sort of before that, but a big canal that could handle big ships and not fall apart over the course of time and be reliable, not having to boat all the way around Africa to get from, say, India to Europe. This is awesome, and they did that in 1869. Jump forward a little bit to November 17th, 2003. On this date, the Terminator becomes the Governator of California. Arnold Schwarzenegger is kind of awesome. He's kind of like the Dwayne Johnson of his day.
Yeah. Well, he's made more mistakes, I think, than Dwayne Johnson, personally, but...
Well, he's in that sense, politically, he's taken more risks. Dwayne Johnson hasn't made as many political mistakes because he hasn't been in politics yet. Now, I know there's some personal things on Schwarzenegger's side, too, with, like, his maid, one of his house people. And
Yeah. But I think, as far as I know, that actually panned out in some way that was civil, so that was good.
Well, is he still with Maria Shriver?
I don't think so.
Oh, okay. That's sad. I thought they were one of those crazy right-wing, left-wing couples that were going to make it.
Let me take a look.
But maybe not. Well, he's 70s. You know who I was listening to last week was James Carville, who's still with Mary Madeline, another extreme left-wing, extreme right-wing couple, and they are both in politics, or at least political commentary. I think that's pretty damn awesome.
Oh, yeah. He divorced Maria Shriver in 2021. So
just a few years ago.
Yeah, a few years ago.
They made it work despite their differences in politics. And that is a theme I want to revisit. So, yes, this date, Terminator becomes Governator 2003. I mean, Arnold Schwarzenegger wasn't just a bodybuilder. He was the world champion bodybuilder. He was the best. And then he has a successful acting career. And he was actually pretty good at that, too, although he kind of always played himself. Great movies that he was in, great fun.
There's a pretty good documentary called Arnold. It's just called Arnold.
Arnold.
Arnold. Yeah, so it's pretty good. Actually, I watched it, and it was enjoyable.
Yeah, Tom in the chat says Bill Burr has a good take on Arnold and what he accomplished. Thank you for that, Tom. We will look that up. Also, this date, it's Homemade Bread Day. And that it's also there are two for this day, and there aren't a lot, but the two for this day that stand out are Homemade Bread Day. I love baking bread. Now, I have to admit, I usually buy prepared bread dough.
Yeah.
But fresh baked loaf of bread is entirely different than, well, it's the greatest thing since sliced bread.
Well, you know who does bread real well is Greg. Greg the bread guy. Our
That's
good friend
true.
Greg the
is
bread
Greg
guy.
in the chat tonight? Greg is
might be.
often in the chat and
He
a
probably
regular
will
attendee
come.
of Great Lakes Objectivists.
He'll probably reveal himself, but he made a really excellent challah, and this one braided bread. It wasn't the challah, but it was it had like almond and apricot in it, and it was so delicious. It was probably the most delicious bread I've ever eaten in my life. Yeah, he does a great job with it. So thank you, Greg, for making bread.
I am using the Genius Fuel mug tonight. I'm not going to explain that, but Nick, if you're watching out there, you know what that's all about.
Okay.
All I'm going to say about that. So, it's Homemade Bread Day. Carbs. Wait. Objectivists don't eat carbs. We stopped eating carbs, right? Well, obviously, we didn't all stop eating carbs, but when the carnivore craze took over, that was a little bit after the low carb craze. Some folks went full carnivore. All I'm doing is eating meat and meat products. But no, I'm a big fan of homemade bread day, and it coincides with National Baklava Day.
I love baklava.
Yes, now we'll get back to the baklava in a minute. Obviously, the Greeks' major contribution to culture, but also very popular in the Middle East in general, including places, well, again, we'll get back to that. Let me go to the next one, because it is National Unfriend Day. And this is getting full-blown into something I want to talk about. National Unfriend Day was declared by Jimmy Kimmel a few years back, and decided it would be on November 17th. I don't know if there was a reason he chose that date, but it is a day of self-care. By simplifying our connections and unfriending any and everyone who does not add joy to our online social network. I love it. It sounds very Marie Kondo. Eliminate anybody who does not spark joy.
Does this spark joy? Does this person spark joy? It's okay to unfriend them.
Yes.
It's okay.
Or if you've set this person aside for 6 months and they haven't given you joy within 6 months, it's okay to discard them.
Yes. Yes. 6 months.
You know, like when you're doing the minimalist thing, when you're trying to minimalize all the clutter in your house.
Especially if you don't actually know them in real life. If they're not really a part of your life and they're just a friend on Facebook, yeah.
Now, I'll tell you, and if you know my social networking style, I don't do that. If you want to be my friend, I want to be your friend, so long as we're cool.
Let me tell
as long as we're cool.
Let me tell you a secret about Robert.
Yeah.
I'm going to reveal.
Tell the secret.
Robert likes to not unfriend the people he doesn't like so that he can keep an eye on their evil deeds.
Well, there is that too. Yeah, you're right. And I've said this before, and I want you to know, and if you've got the stomach for it, I encourage this. There's an old expression, keep your friends close and your enemies closer. And so if you go on my social media, and incidentally, I joined a new one today, or an old one that's new to me, Blue Sky. Although folks tell me that's where all the libs go after they flounce off of Twitter. Because, thin-skinned and they need safe spaces and all that. Well, I joined Blue Sky this week. I'm also on every social media network out there. I call Blue Sky the new Canada. Because remember when, I think it was the first time Trump was elected, and people were saying, if Trump's elected, I'm moving to Canada. And then Facebook started getting censorial. Is censorial a word? Censoring people, of course, we know. It's private property. They can't literally censor people, but they were, blocking all sorts of comments around pandemic times, and no, you can't say things about ivermectin. We're throwing, and people were saying, I'm getting off Facebook. I'm going over to MeWe. Do you remember MeWe was the new
Yes.
Canada? You know, because the celebrities say if he's elected, I'm moving to Canada. MeWe was the new Canada. And then there was Threads. And then Twitter turned into X and shifted radically from one side of the aisle to the other, and on and on and on and on and on.
Yeah, and more than that, yes. Sensorial is actually, the root is sense, like, your five senses. It's
So
not
I'm very
CEN.
sensorial. I'm a senses guy.
Ooh!
So Facebook wasn't sensorial. Well, it depends on what kind of posts you read or write, I guess. It could be that. But I love this idea of National Unfriend Day, and I don't mean, I was just kidding about unfriending people you don't engage with, but people you have, well, people who don't give you anything, people who don't meet you at your values, people who offer you nothing but that bit of jolt that you get when you get in an argument with somebody and you really feel alive. Well, if that's what's making you feel alive, you got to find better ways to get a jolt.
Yes.
And that's what I want to talk about. Real quick, it's Lorne Michaels' birthday. Among other things, the founder of Saturday Night Live. Saturday Night Live, for a lot of us who found the election season challenging, it helped. It was fun. It made things easier. It was a good thing. So, happy birthday, Lorne Michaels. Still with us, age 79. Rachel McAdams, the actress, is also, her birthday's today. She's 45 and much cuter than Lorne Michaels. And I mention those two because they're Canadian. And they interview like they've got a certain charm that only Canadian people seem to have. They're nice. They just come across as nice
They're
people.
Very, very nice.
Another person who comes across as very nice is Tom Ellis. Tom Ellis, the actor. We watched Lucifer up until that last season.
Oh, yeah.
At some point we'll pick it back up again.
Yeah.
45 years old, just like Rachel McAdams. He also comes across as nice. He's Welsh, but Welsh people are always nice too.
Most of the time.
Oh, Matthew's in the chat. Well, then you can affirm that for us.
That's why I
that
said most
Welsh
of the
people
time.
are very nice. Well, as Amy says, most of the time. If they were always nice, it wouldn't be cool. It would just be milquetoast. You'd be like, oh, they're too nice. They're nicey nice. No, they're nice most of the time. And that's the way it should be. Danny DeVito is also 79 years old today. That's all of the birthdays. And that's all I got. But
The end.
well,
Fini.
on this topic of keeping in your circle that which sparks joy
Yes.
and unfriending the people who don't. Man, what a weekend. What a weekend.
Woo! Well, what a Friday night. That's what a Friday night.
Friday night in Hamtramck, Michigan.
Wow.
Hamtramck, Michigan, for those of you who don't know, it's a fully enclosed city. It's inside the city of Detroit.
It's an enclave.
It's an enclave. It's very similar to Dearborn, although Dearborn has borders outside of Detroit. In more ways than one, it's got a big Arabic population.
Yep. Yep.
And, of course, everybody who knows my family name, Nasir, some people say Nasir.
Nasir.
There's a connection there. Now, anybody who knows me, anybody who knows Amy knows we are, what's the best way to put it? We're pro-Israel. We are absolutely pro-Israel, and so if anybody would think, oh yeah, you must be, you're Syrian, so you must be pro-Lebanon, you must be I'm pro-Lebanese restaurants. That's what I am.
Well, actually...
And I don't really eat Middle Eastern food much, but that's mostly for, Amy, that's for your sake.
I love Middle Eastern food.
Well,
Yes, give me some meat grape leaves and some yogurt and some lemon and some and some fresh pita bread with the sesame in it with the garlic sauce and oh my gosh.
yeah, I'm curious if that's common. Tell us in the chat how you feel about Middle Eastern food.
And the Turkish coffee with a little cute little serving little coffee pot. So adorable and just so good.
We did a whole episode called "When Your Hero is both the hero and the villain." In other words, if you have people you like who are mixed in some ways, like Schwarzenegger, for example. Schwarzenegger's great, and we can love everything he does without loving everything that he does.
Yes.
And I have that kind of complex relationship to Middle Eastern food. I love the Middle East, hate the Middle East for different reasons. Well, Friday night we went to a Lebanese restaurant, what was it called? The Lebanese restaurant? I think that might have been the name of it. In Hamtramck, Michigan.
Yes.
Hamtramck, like Dearborn, again, you've got not every other building, but a lot of the businesses there, you drive by and Arabic writing on the signs.
All over the
God,
place.
here we go. And you wonder, do I want to get near this place? What is their stand on Israel? But great food, little restaurant, dive restaurant next to a dive bar. The dive bar is a bar called Smalls. Smalls
Yes.
Hamtramck, with an apostrophe. I don't know if the guy who started the bar was named Small or if there's another reason for that. Been there forever. I tried looking on Google Earth. Pictures of they have historical pictures. It hasn't changed a bit in the last 20 years. Small clubs, small clubs, small clubs.
Yes.
And my message for you is go to small clubs. We went to a small club
So good.
to see who?
On Friday night, we saw
Not everybody, just who did we go there to see?
Dead Bob.
Dead Bob. Now, who the hell is Dead Bob?
These people. Yay, Dead Bob.
So we go to the small club to see this band called Dead Bob.
Oh,
So why would we go to see Dead? Amy, this is all you.
Because the drummer of Dead Bob and kind of the instigator for all of it is a guy named John Wright, who was part of No Means No.
No means no.
Yay! Look, and John signed my he says, "Cheers, Amy." Oh,
Cheers, Amy.
Yes.
He didn't just put his name on there.
No.
And No Means No. Is this the first album by No Means No?
No, it's not actually. It's
Or was
it's
it
but
like
this is
the
like
big album?
the big album.
The big
by
album
No
by
Means
No
No.
Means No.
So this is John here underneath a cow mask, in this disguise as a priest. This is brother Rob, who is unfortunately retired from music.
So that's why it's a new band called Dead Bob.
Yes.
Okay.
So only sheep need a leader. And I'm in the middle of this book. No Means No. It's really, 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 really heavy, even though it's paper. But it's called No Means No: From Obscurity to Oblivion, an Oral History.
Obscurity to Oblivion.
With a really, really excellent foreword by Fred Armisen, of all people, who is also a drummer, by the way. And I think he plays other instruments too. Fred Armisen of SNL, and also Portlandia, and all sorts of other stuff too. But he's a really great guy. But anyway, John Wright, the drummer of Dead Bob, I got freaked out. If anybody is Facebook friends with me, I posted like a really vague book thing that looked like I was dead or something or dying. And I even had a friend, thank you, my good friend Lily.
I thought it was charming.
The previous post.
Okay.
That said like I don't know what I said, but I put like little skulls on it and things like that because I was done. I was dead. I was dead, and then I was alive.
What does that mean? What, like you were freaking out over meeting this guy?
Freaking out.
Okay.
It was one of the God, I haven't felt this way in decades. The feeling of, oh my God, I can't believe it. Look, this person who I idolize is just sitting over there eating some food, and I don't want to bother him.
Yeah, we show up in Hamtramck, and we parked in front of this restaurant, and we look over, and this guy that we're coming to see, who we've been waiting forever to see, is just like, he's at
Sitting
this
alone.
little Lebanese restaurant next door to the bar.
And he's sitting there, and he's
And I'm like,
eating,
oh, that's
and
cool.
he's on his
And
phone, and
I thought that was cool. And Amy, what was your reaction?
oh my God, Robert, I didn't even want to speak that loud because I was so like, I was so out of control emotionally that I had to keep my cool, and all I could do is just sort of like run away and kind of freak out, without anybody seeing me. And because I was almost ready to just start screaming. It was really difficult to integrate, to process, because this is a guy who is the drummer of a band who I've known for 35 years and I absolutely loved, and I know their songs by heart, and they really meant a lot to me when I was a teenager, and so there was like a part of my brain that kind of lived in fantasy land, that didn't have any connection. The art and the music that they made didn't actually have any connection to, oh, these are the people who actually created this music. Here I am meeting them. Never saw them before. And so it was really hard to process. So I had never felt this way for a very, very long time, where I felt extremely embarrassed and I just didn't know what to say. And I just couldn't trust anything that would come out of my mouth. So I'm like running away.
So rather than go into the restaurant and try to say hi to him, we stayed in the car for a bit, and then we got out. Oh, and as we were getting out, he was leaving the restaurant and walking down the street, and we're like, oh, we probably shouldn't follow him. And we go into the bar. So,
I was still freaking out, though. And then at the end of the evening, with Robert's help and encouragement, he told me to go over to the back, the door,
stage
behind
door,
the stage,
back of the restaurant, or back of the bar,
back of the stage, yeah,
backstage door.
And I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't know, and so anyway.
And here I'm thinking, he's Canadian. How bad can it be?
He's a really, 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 really nice guy.
No, you could tell from his stage presence he was going to be just pretty damn awesome.
And I know this also because I read this book. Like this is all of my stupid book knowledge, like all my stupid knowledge of all the things that they wrote in all of their lyrics and all of the subject matters they've touched on and all this stuff. It's all book learning. And it was really, really hard to have all of that information go up against what was real right in front of me.
So I'm curious if any of you out there, and let me know in the chat if you're online right now, if you're listening to this live, either Facebook Live or YouTube. Did you ever have artists, musicians, or other kinds of heroes who were formidable in your growing up? And I mean the kind of people who, the fact that they existed helped you through really hard times, just knowing they were out there, and the things that they said or the things that they did or the things that they achieved. Curious if you had any of that, where if you ever met them in real life, you would be, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God.
So Christopher says on YouTube, I never know what to say to my idols. Well, guess what? With Robert's encouragement, thank you, Robert, I lifted my feet off the ground. I peeled my feet off the floor, and I walked towards the backstage door, and there he was. And I think Robert said something first, just to get thank you again, just to get the conversation going. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, come on, Amy, you're a musician. You were up on stage. You perform all the goddamn time. What's wrong with you? And
you're in the club. Oh yeah,
why
but
are you so mortifyingly shy? And so I went up to him and I actually told him. And this was the first thing I said. I said, I know all of No Means No music by heart. I'm a deeply appreciative fan or something like that, and my heart beats to the rhythms of the songs of No Means No. It's the only way that I can really express that. And I'll just say again, No Means No is a band that's a punk rock sort of jazz fusion progressive weird band that I absolutely love, fell in love with, and highly emotive band. And and I told him that it meant so much to me growing up as a teenager to have their music. And I don't know what else I said, because I don't even remember. It was such a blur. But he was so moved by what I said to him, he was the one who approached me to give me a hug. And I'm like, oh my God.
And he was sweaty after the show too.
And I'm like, no, I'm all in. Because I was standing there for the hour while, like, inches away from him drumming, like, and the drummer sweat kept splashing on me. I'm like, I don't care.
And folks, if you've seen the pictures, it wasn't quite as awkward as it sounds. And in the middle of it all, I just looked at him and I explained, you were, for Amy, you were the right band at the right time.
So
And he understood. He understood exactly
understood.
what that meant.
He got it.
Yeah,
he knows.
In the chat here, Christopher was saying he never knows what to say. He says George Lucas, Sting. Yeah, you're in the same room where you meet these people.
And you're like, I can't.
And you're like, well, I could say the same thing everybody else says that they've heard 100 times. Oh, your work means so much to me. But how do you... It's true. It's not dishonest. But how do you... When you feel like you want to make that connection, and I think you really did.
I was to the point mentally in my epistemology at the time that I couldn't even say casually, "Oh, hi, love your music," because that was so incongruous with what I felt and what it meant and what I knew. And I'm like, there's no way I'd be able to get those words out.
It's hard. It's hard. Tom in the chat says, I met my favorite hockey player, Jean Rattel, when I was a kid and was awestruck. I wanted to tell him why he was my favorite, but chickened out. Yeah, well, especially when you're a kid, but even as a teenager, it's such a how do you meet somebody when you feel like they're at a different level?
Well, it wasn't so much that. It was that it's like, okay, I'll give you an example. When you first fall in love, or when a loved one dies, and there's too much to process all at once, and you really can't find the words. And so yeah, but he gave me a hug.
Yeah.
I just love it. So I'm just so over the moon about all of
genuinely good
more
guy.
than great guy. And excellent drummer. I mean, it was like, Jennifer's in the chat. It would be like if you were a foot away from Neil Peart, watching Neil Peart and feeling the sweat, just, start misting, onto your hair and face.
It was that kind of night.
It's just amazing. Oh my gosh. Anyway,
and in the story, Amy kind of skipped from the beginning to the end, which is fine. But there were two other bands there, and there was a band called The War Between, which was a good small club kind of band.
Solid rock band.
Solid rock band. A little punky.
Yeah.
The second band was a band called Lung.
Lung.
L-U-N-G, like lung. And they were two members. A guy who, it turns out his name, big guy, big hair, much bigger than mine, black hair, and a beefy guy gets up on the drums. His name is Daisy, and
his name's Daisy,
and he's the backup, the star of the show. If I, not meaning to say anything about Daisy there, but the star of the show and she is a cello player. So she's got an electric cello, which is nice because if you know how a lot of electric cellos are laid out, you can see through it. You can see the artist. It's not like she's blocked by a big instrument. And she plugs in her cello to a pedal board and plugs the pedal board into not just a big Peavey amp, but also a Gallion Kruger amp. And you think, well, she's got a guitar amp, she's got a bass amp. What is she going to do with a cello? And she is playing the heaviest cello, not just that you've ever heard, but that you could even imagine.
You mentioned it was electric, so it was like this white outline, sort of lightweight plexiglass kind of cello.
Pictures and video are on my Facebook wall, because I can't even describe it. She had a massive pedal board for her cello. If you know what a pedal board is, all the different effects, ways to change the sound and give it deeper and higher and lower sounds and echo and reverb and phaser. And she had a second pedal board. She had another pedal board as big as the first for her vocals. And she would just snap back and forth, not just for a whole song where she would use a vocal effect, but one line. There would suddenly be a harmonizer and 4 versions of her voice as she's singing live. And the next line, it would be a pitch change, and she would be singing operatic, and she's already singing super high, but it takes it another octave higher. Just crazy stuff.
And it wasn't like you may, as a musician, like Robert, we have like one of those voice modulator voice boxes.
Yeah.
And, you can do so much with them, but whatever she had was really, really amazing, intense, and very, very well done.
It didn't expertly controlled.
It didn't sound cheesy or jarring or anything.
And all this is to say, 3 bands, great night, meeting heroes. And then you talk to these people afterward, and they're just regular people.
Yeah.
Well, they're kind of a cut above, but no, they're happy to talk to you.
Yes.
They love what they do. It's a great thing about small clubs.
Do.
Sometimes we've done meet and greets where you pay big name artists to meet them after a show. And sometimes you can tell they're doing the meet and greet because they get paid a lot of money for meet and greets. And they're okay with the people. They don't mind meeting people. But sometimes you can tell that they love what they do. And that's what you saw at this show. These are just ordinary people, but they love what they do. And they are happy to be there, and they are happy to meet you. And if you get that opportunity to do that, to meet those kinds of people, and you might not be into punk rock music. You might not even be into rock music. You might be into country. You might be into classical music.
Yeah.
Those opportunities are there. And if you ever find yourself by the backstage door, the stage door to the back of the building where the artists usually go back to their limos or SUVs or hoopties, depending on what kind of artist you're seeing, do take advantage of that opportunity to meet them. They say never meet your heroes. No.
Do it!
Always meet your heroes.
Do it!
The premise behind never meet your heroes is just, it's so wrong. Now, Bonnie mentioned in the chat here, and I want to relate that to this. Bonnie said, I passed Leonard Peikoff into the street as he was getting out of his car after his dim speech, his dim-wit speech in Boston, and froze and kept on walking. Well, I'll tell you, Bonnie, the first time I met Leonard Peikoff, he was a little curt. He wasn't rude, but he had no interest in talking to anybody. This was actually at breakfast at a conference, 1990, conceptual conferences before Ocon. And I later found out that was the year that he had a lot of medical issues. Some of you folks may know about that. And that divorce with Cynthia was wrapping up. And it just, it was sad. It was kind of disappointing, but it was what it was. Happily, that year I met a whole lot of other great people at conceptual conferences. But even better than that, later on I got the chance to meet Leonard again. In fact, Amy, you and I both met him in 2010 at Ocon, outside Vegas at Red Rocks.
Red Rock.
And he was much more fun, much more charming that time.
Yeah, he was. Yeah.
And then we talked to him on his radio show.
Yes.
And
those were the best days, Leonard Peikoff show.
So, yes, Bonnie, don't feel bad. I totally get it. And
no.
Yeah, she says, he was staring at me as I walked by, probably because no one else was around, and I was staring at him. And as I passed by, he tripped on the curb, and that's when I froze and thought I should help him. But I know that feeling, absolutely. And one reason to share this story is not just to put some of our joy out there, but to recommend that you do absolutely take advantage of these opportunities. And not just to meet people, but go out. I know we've got some people in the audience who have said they don't go out much. They're kind of not very social, and I know that feeling. In fact, it's funny because that Friday night you're going to meet the drummer from a formative band of your youth, the guy who, him and maybe 2 other bands changed everything for you. But we had a tough week. Really bad allergies here in Motown, Southeast Michigan. And I remember that afternoon you were thinking, man, maybe we shouldn't go. Not really feeling it.
I said, I don't feel like going, but I guess I'll go.
No, you got to go. But
Jesus.
But I've told you before, and I'll tell you again, one of the secrets of a successful marriage, well, I give it to you in that context, but one of the secrets of a successful life is that the answer is always yes. Always say yes. As much as you can get yourself to, and then maybe a little extra on top of that. So we went, we saw, we conquered. It was magnificent. And I want that for you. I want you to do more of the things. Say yes.
Yeah, Chris on Facebook, he says, when he met Joe Satriani.
Oh, yes.
I tried to tell him a story about when I played Always With Me, Always With You in high school, and I got the title backwards. So what? Who cares?
I hate
so
it when
what?
that happens, because then you're like,
Who cares?
They'll probably think I'm not really a fan because I said it wrong.
And he says, I was so goofy and embarrassed. I'm still embarrassed. Don't be embarrassed.
Do not be embarrassed.
You know, embarrassment is... Okay, so let me just tell you something. One of the things that happened when I was, a foot away from this guy, when he was up on stage and he was playing, and then there were other band members. So John Wright, he was wearing a Devo t-shirt, first of all, which I absolutely love. I've got the same t-shirt, and I was thinking about saying that to him. I'm like, I got the same t-shirt, but I'm like, I better not say that. But anyway, I was so embarrassed. Yep. But and then the one lead singer who was this really, really amazing woman, multi-instrumentalist, real punk rock kick-ass lady. She was wearing a Weird Al shirt that was in the style of the Misfits skull with Weird Al's hair. And it says Weird Al and kind of like the Misfits sort of font style. Anyway, it's very funny. And I love it. And one of the connections that I have between Devo and Weird Al is that Weird Al did an actual composed song that he wrote, but it was in honor of Devo, and that song is called Dare to Be Stupid.
Dare to Be Stupid.
Dare to Be Stupid.
It's a great song, and it's great advice.
Stupid. And and of course that was ringing in my ears, before I met John Wright, and before I talked to him, I'm like, I just got to get something out. I got to start with something, and then, and I, like I say, I don't even remember everything, but I said something, and I started with something, and I kept going, and I told him, and it affected him, and he gave me a hug, and I'm like, but I was still processing, and even like earlier today, I turned to Robert and I said, Robert, I met John Wright.
Still sinking in. Still giving the thrill.
Still integrating. I still can't quite connect it with all the synapses that I have. Yep. And you may not ever. And
okay.
You may feel embarrassed forever. But know that embarrassment is not a reflection on your character.
Yes.
At all. Or your strength, or your courage, or your values whatsoever. It is a reflection of the fact that you are a conceptual human being who is still integrating, and try your best to reframe the embarrassment to that.
Yes, and this is important too. For example, Tom in the chat says, "Well, I would be in awe if I met Yaron or James Valiant. We've met James Valiant. Actually, I think we bought him oysters.
We bought him oysters.
Cleveland.
He came right up to me and he gave me a kiss on each of my cheeks, on my face.
One from him and one from Holly, if you know who Holly is, Mrs. Valiant.
That was very sweet.
And Tom, I totally get that. I mean, I totally understand the feeling, and I have been an objectivist fanboy almost as much as I've been a music fanboy. But Bonnie says, speaking of her, not speaking up to speak to Leonard Peikoff, but Amy was getting out of the car. Now, Amy, I know you were at the Dim Talk. I missed that one in Boston. Oh? But I'm sure that Bonnie is talking about Amy Peikoff, because I think they were still together at that point. Either way, she says, but Amy was getting out of the car and said, "Oh, Leonard, what a day you've had. First you fell at the airport and now here." So I caved, thinking Amy will help him. Never forgave myself.
Wait. Did that actually happen? Because I have no memory.
No, it's Amy Peikoff she's talking about.
Oh, Amy Peikoff.
I'm sure. Okay. Well, I'm assuming that. But here's the thing, and Bonnie, it's okay that you feel that. It's totally okay that you say, I'll never forgive myself. Here's the thing. Amy mentioned earlier, as musicians, we've been on stage before. Here's something you won't believe, but it's true. We've been on stage before and have made mistakes. But one of the things, a few, here or there, once or twice in each song. So
much.
The point is, one of the things that you learn as a musician is, and we're small club musicians, bars and clubs. And One of the things you learn is occasionally there will be somebody out there who's also a musician or just a critic, and he'll be like this. His arms will be folded, and he'll be looking at you, and he'll be like, yeah. Judging you. That guy, he is so miserable that even if you were perfect, it wouldn't cheer him up. He would just have less to complain about. Everybody else in the club, all they want is to be entertained. They don't care about your mistakes as long as you put some good stuff out there.
Yes.
Nobody, and more than that, most of those people actually have goodwill. They actually want you to succeed. They want you to have fun. They want to have fun. Even if they catch your mistakes, they don't care. And here's what I want for you, all of you, not just Bonnie. If you find yourself in an embarrassing situation, number one, should I say A or one? First of all, give yourself permission. It's okay to be embarrassed.
Yes.
But B, ask yourself, wait a minute. If I was that guy or that gal, if I was Leonard Peikoff in that situation, and I saw me, a stranger over there, would I want you to feel embarrassed? Would I want you to feel bad? Would I be pointing daggers at you with my eyes, or would I say, oh yeah, I hope they're all right too? If he knew afterward, oh yeah, she wanted to help me and didn't, and she felt embarrassed about it, do you think he afterwards would want you to feel that way? Would he be sitting there saying, she didn't help me? No, I can tell you no. So it's okay if you feel embarrassed, any of you, about anything like that. But do always ask yourself, well, wait a minute, what if I was that guy? What if I was the Leonard Peikoff in that situation? Me, what if I was that guy? Would I have wanted some other person to feel bad about that? And you think, well, no, I'm not like that. I wouldn't have wanted somebody to feel bad. I wouldn't have wanted somebody to feel embarrassed. But, well, do that then. Flip it around and ask yourself, if I was out in the audience, would I care that guy hit the wrong note at the end of that guitar solo?
Nope.
Would I want that guy to feel bad that he forgot the lyrics to the third verse of Freebird? I'm kidding. We've never played Freebird, but you get the idea. So do meet your heroes, and don't feel bad if you're shy or embarrassed or stuck for words or worried about what they'll think about you after they've talked to 1,000 fans already. Don't feel bad about that. But also, give yourself permission to treat them the way you'd want to be treated if somebody came up to you and said, oh, wow, I really like what you do. And get out there. Go to more shows. Go do more things. Tom mentioned hockey. Go to more sporting events. Meet your heroes.
Yes.
That's why I titled this episode, Rocking Out. To thine own self be true. Be who you are, and be it big. Be it large. So, Amy, you finally got to see the band that was an offshoot of a band that you should have seen decades ago, but, small Canadian band, they weren't always coming to Detroit, and this was finally your chance to at least meet one of the Wright brothers. And it was epic because on the way home in the car, I'm in full rant mode. Robert's driving, and I'm like, and this 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 and this. Just like integrating so forcefully. Yeah, well, it brings out the passionate and even angry and excited teenager. But it was what part of the embarrassment or part of feeling like I wasn't ready for this. Yep. Was that I wasn't ready for this. Right. Because I got to tell you, No Means No, very negative band. They talk about things not to do. They talk about people not to be like. They talk about thinking methods, not to think that way. It was both cathartic when I was a teenager and also reassuring that there are other people like me who are thinking about things. The epistemology, the epistemological value of this band was really deep for me. And I mean, so I've got my objectivist shorthand for stuff, right? And I'm like, oh yeah, my epistemology, blah, 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 but I can't go up to John Wright and say that.
he wouldn't I think I have two heads, or didn't know what, maybe think I'd be pretentious. So I wanted to communicate words that he would know that would be meaningful for him in a way that really reflected my passion for the band and that kind of reflection of passion that I got from the band. You know, that whole infinity reflection going on. And I did it, and I actually did it. I gave him that knowledge, and we both had the same emotional reaction that was absolutely proper to the situation, and I got a hug from him. I'm very proud of myself for doing that. It's still not quite all real to me, and I'm still integrating and still processing. But know that, you know what? Man's got to know his limitations. You have to know the limitations of your conceptual faculty, and this is one of them. So don't blame yourself. Don't feel bad if you feel embarrassed, or that you don't. If you are not ready for it, don't know what to say. Start with that, with anything, even if you get the words mixed up. Yeah. So there's more to say on that, but
I think we've made the point.
I think we made the point.
And I've well, to say hi to Linda in the chat. Linda is on the Facebook side and says, I already met you both. That's right. We met you in the best way because, we've never been to the galleries in Jackson or Napa. You know what gallery we're talking about, folks. Cordair.com, CORDAIR.com. But we were at the mini gallery that Linda and Quent and Kirk brought to Ocon, the mini gallery that they set up.
Yes.
And it was magnificent, of course.
In
if
Cleveland.
You've been to Cordair.com, you know.
Yes.
So yes, do meet your heroes. Absolutely. Bonnie in the chat says, values. Big exclamation points, big hearts. Values achieved. Well, I'm going to jump right forward, right to the Post-it note of the week. Because I wrote on a Post-it note, I will write a Post-it note to myself, and I recommend you do this. You should always have a stack of Post-it notes. And I like Sharpies, permanent markers. Make them big, make them bold. And write notes to yourself to remind yourself of the things, usually things you already know. So my Post-it note for the week says, you are bulletproof. Lead with values. If you meet your heroes in the street or at the stage door of a small club, remind yourself, what's the worst that can happen? What's the worst they can do to you? They're not going to shoot you. You're bulletproof. You are invincible. Lead with value. Actually, you see I have two pads here because the way I originally wrote it, I wrote, you are invulnerable. Lead with love, because that's what values are. So that's the note I'm writing to myself this week. Next week, we're going to keep it up. We're going to see Morrissey, lead singer of the Smiths. Now, Amy, I know the Smiths were not a formative band for you.
I'll tell you what.
But you were a fan.
I am a fan of Stephen Morrissey, especially when I was a teenager. And, there was like a contingent of very intellectual. I would always be attracted to or really appreciative of any musician or singer or band that were intellectual, that would sing about things nobody else sang about. Well, that's no means no, for one thing. The Smiths also were a band, I couldn't relate to them as much, but I really appreciate Morrissey's singing style. I appreciate his stage presence, the fact that he's been a very good performer. I know a lot of people don't like him, but he's always been a mixed up guy. He's always been, he's a very Oscar Wilde, life is too complex for words sometimes, and maybe, and often bordering on being malevolent, but a lot of people don't like him for, I think he's said some conservative things or something. Some liberals don't like that. And he's also said some very off-the-wall things. I don't remember that. I think the last thing he said was about Sinead O'Connor and he was basically chastising celebrities who came out after she died and said, "Oh, I remember Shanae. She was so beautiful." And then he chastised them for saying that because they weren't around when she needed them or something. I don't know, something along those lines. And who the hell knows if Morrissey was around for Sinead O'Connor? Anyway, he says what's on his mind, which is kind of cool, which I really do appreciate. And he is pretty intellectual, and he was that whole contingent of bands and influences from Friedrich Nietzsche to the French Revolution, into Voltaire, to other French thinkers, to to all the bands that I knew, including the Smiths, including No Means No and Tuxedo Moon, The Wedding Present, and all these bands, and Echo and the Bunnymen, and really appreciating their style and the fact that they think about things deeply and they think about things that no one else thinks about. They're not afraid to go into deep and dark subjects and try to untangle them, or at least try to find catharsis. But that's what I think of Morrissey. That's if he does show up for the concert, because he might not.
Yeah, and I mention it again because we're going to see Morrissey next week. But more than that, as I say, he wasn't a formative band for you, Amy, but another band that was formative or important to you will be seeing next year. The band The Wedding Present is touring again.
This is another, my God, I can't believe this moment. But next May.
And having been through this with John Wright, now you'll be able to walk up to David Gedge and say, your music meant a lot to me. And I'm sure you won't be nervous at all. No,
I'll be less nervous with Dave Gedge, because Dave Gedge is, I don't idolize him farly. I don't idolize him even as nearly enough as I do John Wright.
Wasn't quite No Means No to you.
No.
Okay.
But
so get out there and do that. Frank is in the chat on the Facebook side of things, and he's saying he wants to go see Alan Parsons' project this week this Wednesday in New Jersey. If you can do it, if there's any way you can do it, I absolutely say you should absolutely do it. Especially because Frank is a guitar player, a 12-string guitar player, and those are the kind of songs that Alan Parsons' project that make for some great 12-string guitar playing. And he confirms Morrissey did say some far right stuff. Yeah, it's
far right, man.
It can't have been any worse than the kind of stuff Roger Waters says or other rock stars.
No, it's not as bad as Roger Waters.
Yeah, of course, on the complete opposite side of the aisle there. Yes. Frank says I learned on my 12-string the Smiths' "The Headmaster Ritual." Don't know that one. I don't know anything about the Smiths. That's an Amy thing. All I know is "How Soon Is Now," which is epic, but. Yeah, not a Smiths fan myself.
Yeah. Headmaster Ritual is a very sad song.
Uh-huh.
Very traumatic. But again, oh my God. Bands in the 80s, they had the courage to actually talk about things. Now it just seems like people are just too traumatized to talk about it. And that's sad.
Yeah, but Tom says he loves the song "Don't Answer Me" by Alan Parsons Project. Oh. I got to give a shout out to my keyboard player Mark, who is a big Alan Parsons Project fan.
Yeah.
And we haven't covered any of their songs yet. We are a cover band, but maybe we will.
Yeah. So Jim on Facebook says this is regarding meeting a hero. One person I spoke to at Ocon. Was a person who I wanted to tell that I really liked her lecture series on my favorite film director. I caught her between lectures, but I had an immediate dilemma. She's a very short person, and I didn't want to be talking down to her, literally, so I didn't know what to do. So I decided to stoop down and get as close to her eye to eye that I could. I felt that that was the most respectful thing to do. That's fine. We know who you're talking about. You're talking about Shoshana Milgram, who is a lovely, 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 lovely person. At least I do believe that's who you're talking about.
Oh, I'm sure. Yes. And she is the opposite of tall, and she is charming, and she...
What she lacks in height, she makes up far more in just character
Joy.
and benevolence and joy.
Yes.
Absolutely.
She's the best. The only thing I'd criticize her for is she's writing Ayn Rand's biography and it's taking too long.
It's taking too long.
Shoshana, if you see this video, we love you, but it doesn't have to be as good as you seem to think it needs to be. I have no doubt that it's already great and it needs to come into the world.
Learn the philosophy of half-assery. Just get it up there.
Shoshana Milgram is great. If you haven't seen any of her videos, most of her Ocon talks have now been published on YouTube. And always worth watching. Frank Grail says, you can learn Eye in the Sky, but can I learn the intro? Oh, man. The intro on that is the best part of the song. I forget the name of it. Sounds something very cosmic. But yes. So, folks, that's what I want to say.
Yeah,
I absolutely want you to rock out.
Yeah, well, conversely again, let's see, backing up, beep, beep, on YouTube comments.
You're going through the chat.
Yeah, let's see, we've got Pete from Toronto. We know Pete from Toronto. We do know a Pete from Toronto, who we met years ago, and just such a delight. He says, many years ago, Dr. Tara Smith mentioning in a lecture Q&A, the idea that even with people you like and have common goals with, you don't have to be Facebook friends. True. Depends on what you use Facebook for. Depends on what your purpose for, why you're there in the first place.
Or if you have a purpose at all, which you should for everything you do, especially the lighthearted stuff.
Yes.
And that brings me, we were done. But I want to mention this real quick. Harry Binswanger, Dr. Harry Binswanger, hbletter.com, holds Meeting of the Mind every Sunday. Now, it's a subscriber thing. You've got to be subscribed to HBL, subscribed to the Harry Binswanger letter, the forum, to attend these Sunday meetings of the minds. Well, this morning, one of the things he talked about, and he led with this, is all too often we will meet somebody who holds beliefs different than ours. And the beliefs may even be like evil beliefs. They may be a collectivist, socialist, whatever the thing is. And it was interesting. Harry said, but we're all too quick to ascribe the level of evil that the ideas are to the person. We don't know why they hold those ideas. We don't know how consistent they are. We don't know what their other virtues are, the other ways in which they are a better person than those ideas would suggest.
Yep.
And it was really interesting because I thought, Amy, I thought you and I were the only people who said that.
Right.
I mean, I know that's kind of the sine qua non of the Atlas Society, but they go way in the other direction. Like, you can't ever judge anybody for anything because you don't know. You don't know what they've been through.
Yes.
That's going a little far, but absolutely, if you don't know why somebody holds an idea or even how deeply they hold that idea, whether they act on that idea, what other good traits they have, what other values they have to offer you. So it was great to hear Harry Binswanger talking about that this morning. If you are an HBL subscriber and you didn't listen to this morning's Meetings of the Mind, do listen to the recording when it comes out, usually the next day, usually tomorrow.
Yes.
And so in the context of it, you're talking about, Facebook and X, Twitter, any of the social media, YouTube chat, whatever it is. Do bear in mind when you are communicating with somebody, you should address their ideas rather than addressing the person.
Yeah.
And if you know the person well enough, you got a relationship with them, it's important to you, you work together, you need to know if they are a person of good character, then, by all means, do those judgments. And it doesn't mean you can't judge a person's character. If they are rude, if they're insulting, if they are uncivil, if they're just a lousy person. But I wouldn't say, but they think Karl Marx had some important things to say, therefore they're an evil person. That might take a little more teasing out. Yes.
Yes. Yeah, and again, if you haven't watched my my live Facebook rant from Friday night, please do. I talk a little bit more about Especially one of the things I really liked about that was I touched on negative emotions and introspecting on them and not being afraid to look at them and not being afraid to look at mistakes that you've made or even dark parts of yourself or things that you went through that were traumatic or whatever it may be. Don't be afraid to, like I said, put it in full sentences. And here I want to give a shout out. I don't know if you're watching Seamus, but he wrote in my comments and I wanted to reply and I tried to, but then I lost my reply. Or maybe I did reply. Let me see. Oh no, I did actually. But anyway.
Well, what did he write?
He said, "This is everything. I love think in full sentences. Now you've got me wondering what I used to process or how I used to process turmoil when I was 16. There was plenty of it, still sometimes is. I'm so inspired that you thought through all of it and found great art along the way. Thanks for sharing." And that really was lovely to see and hear that comment, Seamus. Thank you so much for posting that. That means a lot, as I wrote, actually. I didn't lose my comment. But it's really important if you are going through adversity to not cease introspecting. And by the way, that is hard to do sometimes, especially if you are a very busy person. But take time out and introspect. Think about the things that are hard for you to untangle. And don't shy away from it. Don't throw your arms up and say, "I'll never understand this." A lot of people do that, and they are the worst for it. So take time to give yourself the gift of introspecting on very difficult subjects in your life. And you can do that, of course, with a therapist. You can, reach out for help on that regard, but have good conversations with yourself. Be thorough, think in full sentences, and keep encouraging yourself to untangle those topics, because it's gonna be worth it. One of the things I love about philosophy and discovering Ayn Rand and discovering, reason as a systematic approach, is just being able to introspect and having the satisfaction in my own self, in my own being, in my own soul of, knowing that I can figure things out. I can I can tweak things out in a way that makes sense to me, and I can understand the world. When I was listening to No Means No as a teenager, I wasn't quite convinced of that. But I am now. Thankfully, I found Ayn Rand, and she convinced me that I could do it, and I've been proving myself that I can for many years now. So, there you are.
Very good, very good. Well, I think I said everything I wanted to say. Let's see. We're talking about Alan Parsons in the chat there. Very good. And did I miss anything else in the chat?
Oh, Matthew said that when he was awestruck meeting us in the speaker's corner in London. Well, that was very sweet of you to be awestruck. I hope it's been integrated.
Well, in that case, I can tell you, not just as a guest, but firsthand, the people that you meet want to meet you too, and we are just as happy to have conversations with you as you are with us.
Yes.
So thank you for that charming comment. Folks, again, my post-it note for the week says, you are bulletproof. There's only so much people can do to you. At a certain age, I got to the point where even my vulnerabilities I got impatient with and decided I'm not going to let people hurt me, or if they do hurt me, I'm not going to care, because I got a life to lead. I got values to pursue. I got to get out there and do stuff and make things happen. Bulletproof may be an exaggeration. You might be, well, like I am, one of those sensitive souls, but There's only so much people can do to me. There's been a lot of incivility on Facebook, on the socials lately, and I've put my foot down and told people, I ain't putting up with it. If you're like that, just go away. And you should do that too. Curate your experiences, curate your friends list. Take advantage of Jimmy Kimmel's National Unfriend Day and unfriend anybody that you need to unfriend. Be value-oriented. That's one of the great things about the stars, your heroes, the people you meet, is they are value-oriented. When they seem maybe a little cold or impatient, the difference between them and some of us is they don't have time for negatives, for nonsense, for distractions, for things that aren't of value. And I don't want you to have time for that stuff either. Be decent to people. Be good. Be gracious. Even when people are a little bit of a disvalue, at least give them the time to maybe be better. But otherwise, let them go. Let them do their own thing. Live your own best life. Keep rocking out. And as the bard said, to thine own self be true. Folks, thanks for joining us. This has been 5 Minutes with Robert and Amy Nasir and you. We are glad that you were here. If you have any suggestions for future episodes of the show, especially with the holidays coming up, please let us know in the chat or in the 5 Minutes with Robert and Amy Nasir Facebook group, or just anywhere on the social media networks that you can find us. We're all out there, all out naked, and you can find everything that we do.
No, I mean,
speaking of
intellectually
naked,
transparent.
Speaking of naked, let me make a naked appeal for your support. Thank you to those of you who are patrons of the show. We appreciate, more than we can say. Well, actually, no, we can say it. We really appreciate your support. If you are a patron, you are the best people in podcasting, like you all are the best audience in podcasting. If you're interested in supporting the show, making sure that these shows keep happening, these conversations keep happening, patreon.com/Robert Nasir, or find links to everything, including a bunch of our socials and past videos at robertnasir.com. And with that said, all that is left is for me to wish you every success that you so richly deserve. Schlubs, people who don't deserve success, don't listen to a show like this. No, you are awesome. You are the best, and you deserve all the rewards of your many, many breathtaking, makes it hard to talk to you at the backstage door, virtues. And that is also why
Dead Bob.
We and Dead Bob, we wish